I'll do some scary movie.
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Look at me, Damien. It's all for you.
Kill her, Mommy. Kill her.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
This is my boomstick. Here's Johnny.
I have to return some videotapes.
We'll tear your soul apart.
Hello and welcome to a slashing episode of All Things Horror. I am your host Ben and I'm joined here with my co-host Matt. If you're new to the show, each week we choose a movie to break down and review. We give it our honest opinions and rate it from 1 to 10. We have a brief spoiler-free chat about the movie before we head into the plot and discuss our favourite and least favourite parts of the film. And if you stick around until the end, we finish off with some interesting trivia and a fun little game created by myself. This week, we're going to be discussing Sleepaway Camp from 1983.
Yes!
Matt's favourite. And the synopsis goes as follows. So, after a boating accident kills her family, a shy girl named Angela moves in with her aunt and cousin. But years later, the kids go to Camp Arawak. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Camp Arawak.
Arawak?
I was going to wear my Camp Arawak t-shirt, but I think I've grown out of it.
And then, where soon after their arrival, a series of bizarre, violent accidents start claiming the lives of various campers and staff. It's directed, written, and produced by Robert Hiltzik.
Hiltzik, I think. Yeah, Hiltzik.
And the main cast is Felissa Rose, Jonathan Tiersten, Christopher Collet, and Mike Kellin. And it's got a running time of 1 hour and 38 minutes. It's available on Amazon Prime and Shudder. However, like Matt said last week, it is actually available on YouTube. You can just go on there and just watch the whole film on YouTube.
It's on the YouTubes.
Yep, on the tube. So yeah, this was a first watch for me. You've been saying since literally the first episode that you really like this film, and I think at one point we did do a poll pick, but it didn't quite win. I think
no, it's not gonna beat Friday the 13th and films like that in terms of like what people want to go to their go-to camp horror.
Yeah, you weren't sure if I'd like this or not.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, only because I don't know. Do you know when you hype something up so much, it almost sets it up to
like Halloween 3.
Yeah, like Halloween 3. Yeah, exactly. Because this is kind of, so like, yeah, it's a different. When I first watched it, I'm just trying to remember what I thought when I first watched it. It was not like I expected. It was the exact opposite of what I expected. In the sense of it felt like, for one thing, all the children are like the age of kids who actually go to camp. Yeah. So it's in a lot of ways there's a lot of realism there and unintentional humour because of the little kids swearing at each other, and the way they behave is pretty much how real kids would behave when their families are not around. Yeah. So there's that element to it. That I think is very unique to, like, say, Friday the 13th, and certainly as they went along, where you're getting like sort of 20-year-olds playing like younger teenagers or 20-odd-year-olds or 30-year-olds. So that was I remember thinking that the first time. I was like, oh, this is very different to. But if in terms of those films, Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3 would fit perfectly with the kind of mid-level Friday the 13th. So this one's very different.
Yeah, see, I don't know anything about this franchise at all. I've got here that there's obviously this one. Number 2 is Unhappy Campers.
Yeah,
Number 3, Teenage Wastelands.
Yeah.
And then in 2008, they did Return to Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah, so okay, so this is interesting because I recently interviewed the guy who helped produce Return to Sleepaway Camp. Now, when they started making that, and it shows how long it took, that it was interrupted by September the 11th. So it took them a long time to get it actually completed and made, and they lost a lot of funding. So the way it works is, like, in terms of this one with Felissa Rose and Return to Sleepaway Camp are the two that follow that timeline.
Right.
So
okay.
The second one and the third one, and well, I'll talk about the fourth one in a minute, which is actually, I suppose, fifth in timeline wise. But anyway, the second one and the third one are the ones without Felissa Rose playing Angela. It's Pamela Springsteen, Bruce Springsteen's sister. She plays Angela in those two, but it's not Robert Hiltzik. It's a completely different company, a completely different set of people, and they are literally trying to cash in on the slasher craze and of, like, maybe Friday the 13th Part 2 and 3 and 4. They're in that era. So they're completely different. So the first one is the Robert Hiltzik one. And then if you look at 2 and 3 as two completely different films, they're also brilliant. A lot of fun. Really, like, loads of fun, but nothing like the first one. The Survivor is cut up clips and half of the film that was made that was put in with the box set that they made later on. So it's not a real film. Right. So, like, The Survivor is not a real film. So you have clips of Pamela Springsteen and somebody else doing a voiceover, and it's a bit crap. And Return to Sleepaway Camp is actually the only one with Felissa Rose in again. So she plays Angela. She plays Angela again in Return Sleepaway Camp, and that's Robert Hiltzik in 2012. So it literally goes 1982 and then 2012 for him.
Right.
So it's a weird one. But I would say the best thing really to do is just the first three are good and then ignore the others. There's reasons why that one failed, Return to Sleepaway Camp, because of funding being pulled halfway through and having to change certain things. I think the ideas are good. They couldn't do the kills that they wanted to do, and this is the kind of film that the first one that certainly lives and dies by how creative the kills are and how for a low budget film. So yeah, it's a weird franchise in a lot of ways.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, hope that explains it a bit. I don't know if it does or it doesn't.
Yeah. So this came out 3 years after Friday the 13th, and obviously that set up the whole kind of camp slasher subgenre. It spawned a whole thing. I know The Burning being released, I think it was only 1 year after the Friday the 13th. That got kind of ignored and was known as like a copycat movie, even though I think it's really good. Do you think this is another example of that? Where that's why it became more of a cult film rather than a big success box office film?
Yeah, so it was for the time and for the amount of money it cost, it was really successful, but critically just ignored or criticised quite a lot, because it looks, in a way, it looks quite cheap, because it is more of there's no Hollywood gloss to it at all. There's no hardly any, or not really any recognisable faces. Like Mike Kellin had been in some things in the past. I think he was a singer and he'd been in a few films, but he wasn't a star. None of the others. So I think people remember it more fondly now, but I think even though it had almost universally hated reviews and things like that, like a lot of them did, even Friday the 13th did, I imagine. I'm pretty sure it did.
Yeah.
It did very well with people. It's just that it's only in this modern age where people can communicate over the internet and things like that, where people go, oh, actually, I also love that film. And from reading, there's a really good book by Jeff Hayes, and I had a chat with him about it, who wrote Sleepaway Camp, Making the Movie and Reigniting the Campfire, and talks about how a lot of like message groups and things like that was the main reason why people kind of realized it was still loved now. But so to answer your question, I think it just sank in a lot of ways, or was just lumped in with a lot of others, but actually did did very well. Like 11, I think it made $11 million off a $350,000 film, and it was one of these like privately funded. Robert Hiltzik was really young when he made it, and yeah, like using real locations that were like real camps and things like that to save money. So yeah, it's kind of. I don't know if people knew how to take it at the time, particularly because, like I say, most of the time you had adults portraying young people in them, and then this one might be a bit shocking for people in a strange sort of way, seeing kids playing kids and behaving badly.
Wasn't what's her name? Felissa.
Felissa Rose.
Felissa Rose. Wasn't she only like 13 in this one?
Yeah, I think when she did. Yeah, certainly when she was auditioning, she was. Yeah, she was. I mean, it's mad because. It was only in the 2000s when she realised that it had a following, and since then, if you look at her IMDb and pretty much through the message boards and early conventions, through this guy Jeff Hayes, then she realised how much people loved it. And now, if you look at her IMDb, it's like I think she was in Fangoria recently. She's got something like 70 films lined up, all horror films.
Oh, wow.
Like she's just like a machine of making horror films now and supporting small creators and things like that, and really in demand on the convention circuit. So she'll dress up as Angela and do the facial expression that you'll have on the your thumbnail that you've made for this episode. Yeah. So like she's really into it. But like yeah, she was really young when she made this. I think she's really good in it. Actually, I think to be honest, I think everyone's plays their characters really well. It's a tough character to play because it doesn't say a lot. No. Yeah, no. I think she was great. And talking about like cult followings and comebacks, like myself included, I never seen or I'd heard of it, but I'd never really properly seen it before. And before I even properly started really getting into horrors, like on a larger scale, I didn't realise that most of the films I know now existed. Like, and that's why I really like doing this podcast, because you've introduced me to some films, like we said, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, and Chopping Mall, stuff like that. I probably, maybe I would have got around to at some point, but that's why I really like doing this, because it kind of like pushes me to broaden my horizon. Yeah, me
like,
too, because horrors. I agree. Like there's loads of films that I would not have, certainly the ones where there was a period of time where I wasn't watching modern horror, so like Insidious and all those kind of films. But I hadn't seen Amityville Horror, and I actually really enjoyed that. So yeah, it's good. It's a good one when something comes up and you go, oh, like I wasn't I didn't. I'd heard of the name, but I'd never saw it. And I guess it's sometimes like a generation thing as well. Like, so I'm old, so my frame of reference is old films. But yeah, this is relatively new film for me. I usually watch 60s and 70s films, but but yeah, it's cool that you've got to see it, because also, if you do go down that path of watching 2 and 3, you're going to have a completely different experience with those as well. Okay.
Yeah, even my dad, when I was chatting to him about the podcast the other day, he's actually, well, it was only a couple of years ago where he introduced me to The Burning. Right. But he's actually recommended our next film. I won't say it now, but when we do our wrap up, when we do our wrap up, I'll tell you what the next film's going to be, and you might have seen it because it's another one, an early 80s, early 80s kind of slasher cult following film.
Cool!
But it's another one. I'd never even heard of it, but maybe you will.
I'll put my hat in the ring for watching. Let's see. I'm trying to think of one. Maybe. Slumber Party Massacre 2,
okay.
Which is really cool. Killer guitarist. Yeah, rock and roll.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
I don't think I've ever asked you this, but when it comes to slashers, there's kind of two ways it could go. Like, you got the the ones where you know who it is, like the killer, you know Halloween, it's Michael Myers, Friday the 13th, well, the sequels of Friday the 13th, it's Jason. But then you also have the whodunit slashers, like this one, Scream, My Bloody Valentine. Do you have a preference?
Well, you know me, I don't sit there like trying to work stuff out. I just kind of let a film happen. So in a way, no, I don't have any preference. Only if they're trying to make a whodunit and it's really badly done, like obvious from moment one, and they're still trying to make it seem like there's some sort of tension there or some sort of thing for you to work out, and there isn't. And then that's a waste of their energy and waste of yours too. But no, I don't really have any preference. Yeah. I think when it comes to slashers, I look for like interesting, quirky characters and creative kills, and I guess well shot as well. So not lots of like just tons and tons of shaky cam, and like I'm interested in the setting, the creativeness of the kills, funny kind of. That's probably why Friday the 13th Part 4 is my favorite of the series, because you've got some really defined, weird characters. You've got Crispin Glover in there dancing, and you've got some weird stuff going on, but also you've got like Tom Savini's skills in there.
Yeah.
So this for me is the same as that in a lot of ways, where you've got very defined characters, some wacky characters, some really creative kills, and some good central performances. But I actually think Robert Hiltzik films it really well right from the beginning with the on the lake. There's a sort of flashback, I guess, sort of sequence. That, yeah, for what it is, without the big budget, it's always stood out for me from the first moment I saw it. I was expecting it to be, well, some people might say it is, and that's fine, but I was just expecting it to be total trash, like boring trash.
Yeah.
But that's not how I see it now.
Okay. Awesome. I think that's pretty much all I've got, really. Yeah, we mentioned about the critics' rating. Did we mention the critics' rating?
Well, yeah, you didn't say the actual rating, but I know it was universally hated when it came out.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like, Rotten Tomatoes has got a decent critics rating. I haven't got the audience one, but the Rotten Tomatoes critics is 81%.
I think, yeah, modern...
IMDb is lower. That's 6.2.
Yeah, I think modern sort of retrospective reviews have brought it up in most ways, and I think that's good. Like when it came out, it was there or thereabouts. Like, people did go to see it. It's just hard to know what an audience is thinking when there's no way for them to kind of record their response other than going to watch it, I guess.
Yeah.
Which obviously did well. And then I think a lot of people just put it down as like low budget. And some people really didn't want to believe that real kids like that can be that cruel. So I think that's quite hard. But like, his pacing is really good. If you look between the set pieces, the storyline stuff, and the characterization and the action that happens that aren't murders, he does that really well for a first-time filmmaker.
Yeah, I mean, I'll leave my proper thoughts until the end when we do when we do our ratings. But I will say that I was honestly surprised about this. I went into it thinking kind of middle of the road, maybe a bit tacky here and there, but I was honestly surprised. It was a fun ride.
It's funny, isn't it? Like the tacky side of it. I guess that's as well what people like about it too, is some of those things, because it's almost like a John Waters movie in a lot of ways. It has this kind of campy charm to it that is either intentional or unintentional, or just imagined in the future when people were watching it in the like now in the modern age. But it's. I think you're right. It is a bit of a surprise film for a lot of people. If they actually will sit down and watch it, for some reason, maybe the name because there's so many films that kind of sound similar to it and the title sound, but it's quite creative and quite, I don't know what the word is, like innovative for what it is within a genre, within an early slasher genre.
I'll be honest, I think, myself included, some people can be really stubborn when it comes to films like this, because you get people that watch Friday the 13th from the get-go, and they're like, oh yeah, Friday the 13th, that's the one that started it, nothing will top that one. So anything after that, The Burning, Sleepaway Camp, anything that's camp-related, no, they're just copying Friday, no. Even if they haven't watched the film, there's just a stubborn bit about it. And maybe that's why I never watched it. But
like it can't compare to...
Yeah. And in recent years, I'm now opening my eyes to it and realising, actually, there is a lot out there which is just as good, if not better, than Friday the 13th.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and like maybe for me as well, like with some of the Friday the 13th that I just shot past on watching them and then never really returned to them. When we've returned to them, like part 2, now part 2 is probably one of my favourites, which it wasn't at the time, and the first couple of times I watched it. And the same with the other films like The Exorcist. Like the more I watched it, the more I got a different read from it. So sometimes, like giving it another chance with an open mind, I think. I think you're spot on with that. And like this is, part of that slashers with a twist. So if there's people who like Happy Birthday to Me or April Fool's Day and things like I'll just dash it. I don't want to ruin it. But like with I think most people know there's a twist. Did you know the twist coming in, or did you see the twist coming throughout the film?
No. I didn't.
That must be the best way to watch it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I won't say anything now.
No, I'm just interested in, just before we start, really, whether you'd kind of had, because that can change how people view films, can't it? If they go in knowing
because because there's that massive finale at the end which kind of wraps it up. Oh, that was a big kind of... That's the one you're on about, the big twist at the end.
Yeah, and even like...
But then there's the
killer.
Yeah, there's also the who did it.
Yeah, I look. By the way, I'll just say this straight away. I love Jonathan Tiersten's character Ricky in this.
Oh yeah,
like Ricky is fucking amazing. Ricky's so cool. He's just like 2 foot tall, full of anger and like righteous indignation, swears like a trooper and isn't afraid of anyone. Like he's just like, I'll fuck you up. Like he's just he's such a cool character. He's like a little punk. He's like a little punk sensibility. But yeah, he's worth mentioning. This Jonathan Tiersten is so cool in this.
Right. Before we give anything else away, I'll hit that spoiler warning and we'll jump through this plot.
Yeah, we've not said anything that's going to happen yet, though.
No.
Spoiler warning.
All right, so the film starts off with John and his 2 kids, Angela and Peter, on a little paddle boat, having fun on the lake when a couple of reckless teens lose control of their speedboat and they hit and kill John and Peter. Jump to 8 years later, surviving child Angela has been living with her eccentric aunt and cousin Ricky. Yeah. Angela and Ricky go to Camp Arawak, but due to her introverted nature, Angela gets bullied by fellow camper Judy and camp counselor Meg. Also, the head cook, I can't remember his name, Arnie.
Oh yeah. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But yeah, the cook.
Yeah.
Artie, yeah.
Artie. The head cook, Artie, attempts to molest Angela as well, with Ricky coming to her rescue. However, someone causes him to get severely scolded by a huge tank of boiling water. He's rushed to hospital, and camp owner Mel deems it was nothing but an accident.
Makes your mouth water, don't it?
Artie, they're too young to even understand what's on your mind.
then, good buddy. There ain't no such thing as being too young. You're just too old.
Oh man, that's just disgusting. Oh, that's so bizarre.
Yeah, Artie is a disgusting, reprehensible character.
Yep.
And she's so small and so vulnerable. And again, we get, like I just mentioned before the spoilers, like Ricky is just like Mighty Mouse, you know? And if there's ever a character who deserves to get scalded by a massive vat of boiling water, then
100%.
it's him.
Yeah, 100%.
I hate that scene, but also, like, he gets his comeuppance pretty quick.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he gets it.
What did you think of that scene? Because that's one that sticks in my head. I hate that guy.
It's a tough watch, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was sitting here, I think a couple of times throughout this movie, I'm like, wow, really? They really went for it. Like,
Oh, yeah, like Mel's like a 60-year-old guy.
Yeah.
And we'll get into it, but, like, Mel's not got much of a moral compass. He'd be arrested these days.
Yeah. It's like, I've got another clip, like, he is just, throughout this film, I think it's not until, like, the fourth murder where he actually admits, okay, things aren't an accident, but, like, all throughout, he is just saying this.
It was obviously an accident.
Yeah, everything's an accident. Everything's an accident. And when it isn't an accident, it seems to be that everything's Ricky's fault.
Yeah.
Which is really unfair. Like, he's horrible to Ricky throughout. And inappropriate with, or we'll talk about Judy. Judy's one of my favourite characters, but...
But I guess from a watching point of view, you would... I mean, I kind of figured it out pretty early on that it would be Angela.
Right.
You know, everyone's bullying her, and then they die. Someone else bullies her, they die. However, you know, Ricky is quite protective, and he's fighting for her.
Yeah, so I guess the red
assume-
herring is Ricky, yeah.
Yeah, you would assume it would be him. But
Well, that's what... That's what Mel thinks, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
He thinks that. And I guess... Do they do a good enough job of making us think it could be Ricky too? Probably not.
No.
Probably not. But equally, they do a good enough job of making Angela seem very weak and vulnerable.
Yeah.
So there's that element too where that still reels you in a little bit, because you're like, well, it has to be someone linked to her, but not necessarily her.
There's quite a few quotes in this film that had me laughing quite a bit. But one of them as well, Ricky's friend, Paul.
Yeah.
I can't remember which one it says it, but that's when we're first introduced to Paul, and they're introducing him to Angela, and one of them says, "Oh, we go way back. You know, we've been best friends for 3 years." Like, that's such a young teen thing to say, because 3 years is a really long time for a kid.
Yeah, like when we were 10 and now we're 13.
3
Like,
years, man. We go way back.
I think one of my favourite lines while I'm here is goes eat shit and die, eat shit and live.
Oh yeah. I made a note of that as well.
That's one of my favourite. The baseball game. There's so many funny incidents. Paul isn't that bad of a guy, but yeah, there's like Judy's a brilliant character because she's just the perfect bitch.
Which one's Judy? Is she the counsellor or the...
She's the one who's the biggest bully to Angela.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. Hair straighteners.
Oh, yeah.
So like Judy and Meg. But like Judy, I think is really... There's actually if you go on YouTube, there is a short film that Jeff, who made the book, did a short film about Judy with the lady that plays her.
Really?
She called Karen Fields. Like, you can find it's like a 5-minute short film about Judy.
Just about her.
Yeah, just about her. And also, and I know we're going back, but like Aunt Martha, at the beginning.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
What a choice! Her Desiree Gould, her like such an interesting portrayal.
Yeah, I was having a hard time figuring her out. Like, I weren't sure if she was like genuinely like insane, like written to be insane, or if it was just kind of a weird acting choice. So. Like, I don't know. I mean, they obviously chose for her to be that way for a reason.
I mean, from what I've heard from people, that's kind of her. Like, she's very. She's passed away now, but very unorthodox kind of person. So in a way, they've got a really interesting character there because it leaves so many questions then about Angela's origins.
Yeah.
It just gives you so many questions because you think, what's going on with Aunt Martha?
I got a clip of her as well.
She's amazing.
Some goodies for the ride up to camp. Wasn't that nice of me?
Any chips?
Why, of course. I believe there's a whole bag. Why, I'm almost sure of it.
I'm almost sure of it.
Yeah, she's wild.
yeah, she is something else. So yeah, we are next at the social, where campers Kenny and Mike, they start mocking Angela, prompting Ricky and his friend Paul to get in a fight with them. That's when Paul and Angela become friends, and I think it's the first time we actually hear her talk. And Kenny is later drowned by an unseen person in his canoe. However, Mel once again rules the death as an accident.
It was obviously an accident.
Yep. Well done, Mel.
Campers Billy and Jimmy then pick on Angela, and it's not long before Billy is then killed next, as he is stung to death when someone traps him in the toilet stall with a beehive.
Wow. It was obviously an accident.
Yes, that's a good
really
one. There's a lot of
cool,
toilet-related ones in the sequels too.
Oh, really?
Oh.
If
If you like toilet-related kills, then this is your franchise.
Not particularly.
Is anyone like, I'm only interested in toilet-related kills?
Yeah, there's a couple of really cool deaths here.
There is. So good.
The canoe one, or the kayak, whatever it is, that looked really good when the guy pulls the kayak off and you see this head with like a snake coming out of its mouth or the nose, or whatever it was. Yeah, that was cool.
Robert Hiltzik creatively is so good. I believe that the only person they got who really knew what they were doing from a historical sense of like having done things before, I believe the cinematographer Benjamin Davis was quite experienced. So that's smart, I think, because often in films, low budget films like this, it's just somebody wobbling a camera around, isn't it, and kind of ruin it. Like, it does look like a film, this.
Yeah. I forgot to look up who did the practical effects in this film. Because obviously Friday the 13th, that was Tom Savini and stuff. So, but this is just as good. Like, a lot of the visuals in this, like the kid with the snake coming out of the mouth and the bees all over the head. It all looks really, really good.
There's a few people who did go on to do a few other things. One of the who did some of the effects on this. William Bullowitt, he did some things for Creepshow, which was pretty cool. But generally, I think everyone just mucked in and kind of tried to follow Robert Hiltzik's vision with these things, and getting hold of people again to talk to them in the books. For the book was quite difficult because a lot of them haven't gone on and done other things. So there's Ed Fountain who did some of the special effects. He did go on to do some of the construction on Creepshow and some things like in films like Chud. So some of them have gone on, but not like, there's nobody really who, I think it's just getting all these people together to kind of do it, whatever was in Robert Hiltzik's mind. And I think he's probably more responsible for writing them so well that they were able to be.
Yeah, I guess it was a really kind of cheap budget film, so they didn't really have a lot to spend.
Yeah, which like you say, is a real compliment to them, isn't it? To say that it stands alongside those other films for that. Yeah,
I mean, I know the death by bees. It looks really cool. It may not be kind of accurate as what would actually happen if you got locked in a toilet stall with a load of bees, but it looked cool. I'm not questioning it. I think it looked good.
I agree.
I did read that they used a mixture of like sugar mixture on the face to kind of like get the bees to come in and stick to the face. But it looked good. It looked good. I'm not complaining.
Yeah, there's I think there's a lot from reading the book about it. A lot of like people just all helping out like to make it the best they could. They were kind of isolated in this camp area, and everybody just. Well, certainly all the adults who were involved all did multiple jobs. So if you look on the IMDb, nearly everybody is doing 1, 2, or 3 things on the films. There are very creative kills in the second and third as well, but it's on a higher budget and a little bit more slick. And this one's, I think, they have to be more creative with it.
Okay, so a relationship begins between Angela and Paul, but it goes a bit weird when Paul kisses her because she has a flashback to when she witnessed her dad in bed with another man. Paul's getting a bit frustrated, and that's when I think it's Judy swoops in to seduce him, but they're both caught kissing by Angela. Later on, Paul tried to apologise, but he's kind of shooed away by Judy and Meg. They pick her up and then they chuck her in the lake, and kids start throwing sand at her. But, as expected, Meg is later killed in the shower by being stabbed to death.
That reminds me a bit of Wet Hot American Summer, like this whole thing throwing him in the water. There's a bit in Wet Hot American Summer, it's like a spoof of these camp films where Paul Rudd's character is making out with somebody. I suppose it's more of a spoof of Friday the 13th, but they're making out with his girlfriend, and there's like a kid drowning behind them. So it just makes me think, like, where are the lifeguards? But
When you first saw this, how long did it take you to figure out who the killer was? Or was it a surprise at the end?
I don't know if it took me that long to work out the killer as such. Maybe it did. But definitely the end was a big surprise.
Yeah.
So it definitely fulfilled that side of it, the sort of shock at the end. But no, I can't remember. Do you know what? I can't remember. Knowing me, I probably didn't even think about it. Do you know what I did think, though? I remember when I watched it, I looked up about it, and there's some really cool characters that, like Ronnie and Jean and the counsellors, I thought were really funny, the way they were like, Angela, and like proper, But James Earl Jones's dad is in it, Robert Earl Jones, which I was like, oh, cool, Darth Vader's dad.
Yeah.
Well, Darth Vader's dad. Not really. That's not Star Wars canon, is it? It's not. Yeah. But yeah, he was in quite a lot of films himself. Robert Earl Jones. So when I mentioned earlier on about there not being any big names, I guess he would count as a big name. But like you say, I think that's when they throw him into the water, and then the stabbing in the shower. All the kills are good, though. I don't think there's a bad kill in this film.
No. So we're now at the camp social, and Paul apologised to Angela again, and she tells him to meet her at the water. Yeah. Mel finds Meg's body, and the kids who threw sand at Angela are now hacked to bits. Soon after, though, Judy is killed by being penetrated with a hot curling iron.
Ouch.
Ooh. Mel thinks Ricky is the killer, so he takes it upon himself to beat him into unconsciousness.
Beat a small child up.
But when he runs into the woods, he's shocked to encounter the real killer before getting an arrow to the throat. Ooh, damn. Now,
do you think the curling iron, I was thinking, these are all young kids. If you're a parent, you are a parent. I don't know if I'd be too happy if my kid was in this scene.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I wouldn't. That's another one where I think they took it a bit too far. They could have done... I mean, I guess it doesn't show you, but
well, that's it.
We all kind of assume where it's going.
Yeah, do they film it around that part so that she doesn't have to be there?
Yeah, because I think at that point, the camera pans away and you see like a shadow silhouette and you just see her arms go in the air.
Yeah.
But we all kind of... We all know where that Kellin
We
Iron's
probably
going.
don't tell her that that's what's happening. In a way, when she's acting in that part, or tell their parents so that they don't complain.
Well, I think this is our second horror film now where there's been a death by curling iron. Is it Host or the other one?
Not Host.
But, Unfriended.
Unfriended.
Yeah,
yes.
that one.
Yeah.
That's a bad way to go.
It is. Unfriended. Nah, that can get in the bin for me, but
yeah.
This one, I think it kind of the worst character or the worst bully has the worst thing happen to them.
Yeah, I
like
think you're
Judy
right.
is the worst.
Something funny I noticed is when Mel finds Meg dead in the shower, like she would have been there for a while, like dead in that shower, but he kind of sneaks in and he goes to open the curtain, but before he even touches the curtain, she kind of like lunges out. I mean...
It was obviously an accident.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. But yeah, no, it's true. Again, there's this is a very short shoot, isn't it? And I imagine if there's certain things that don't look exactly right.
I mean, that's weird as well. How old is Mel supposed to be? Like, he is an old man.
Yeah, well, he'd had a full-on... Mike Kellin's like the biggest name in the film.
Yeah.
So he was born in 1922. He did actually pass away not long after this film came out.
Yeah, I see that, yeah.
But he'd been in, like, plays and stuff. Like, he'd been in one of the versions of American Buffalo, one of my favourite plays, the David Mamet play. But he'd been in films like with Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. So like we're talking like proper old Hollywood and like cowboy series like Gunsmoke and The Twilight Zone and The Alfred Hitchcock Hour. So like he's working consistently from like the 50s. I think this wasn't his last film. Because he'd done some stuff on stage in 1982 as well. Shockingly, he played King Lear in 1982. But he was in The Jazz Singer, which had been very popular. He was in another film. In fact, this was his final film role, but I don't think it was his final acting role because he did a lot on stage. I wouldn't have even put him down as an actor because I thought he was just some old dude, you know. He was
yeah.
Just got some old dude in. But he's very good because he's slimy and horrible, but also like quite entertaining with it.
Yeah. And
like when he beats up Ricky, that's so funny in a way because like he's just like a little kid.
All right, so we are now at the finale. So Paul meets Angela at the water, where she suggests to go for a little swim. But when Ronnie and Susie arrive, when they find a naked Angela holding Paul's severed head, they are also shocked to discover that Angela is actually a boy. And then we see a flashback where we find out that Angela is in fact her thought-to-be dead brother Peter. The real Angela died in the accident and Peter survived, and when her auntie gained custody of him, she decided to raise Peter as the girl she always wanted. And then the naked, blood-covered Angela stands before the shocked Susie and Ronnie, staring vacantly at both of them, hissing and growling like a wild animal. That's
really cool. She does that really well. I know that actual part of when Angela stood there with the body thing on, that's someone with a mold of her face on.
Yeah.
And but the actual noises and all that she does, and the acting that she does when it's her face is really, really cool. Because you think she's feral. She's gone feral.
She's gone wrong.
She's gone wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, I now understand the reference that you made last week about Angela's screamy face.
Oh, yeah. Like,
Yeah, she's looking to the side screaming, yeah.
Yeah, you can get pictures that she'll write. I know Felissa Rose writes on a lot of things. Meet you at the lake after the social. She writes that on things a lot. And then she'll do the face as well while wearing a Camp Arawak t-shirt. So, like, she gives the fans what they want, you know?
Oh, fair play. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, she's really cool. Because it reminded me a bit of... I was really hoping to see Patty Mullen last year, and she was supposed to be in the full Frankenhooker costume, and I was like, "Oh, that would be cool." You want something? It's like the same like when I have a picture with was it David Howard Thornton? It's like if it was David Howard Thornton, great, but dressed in the full art costume, then even better.
Yeah.
But having said that, loads of people dress as art, so it could be anybody. But yeah, what? Go on then. What was your take on all of the craziness that leads to the end?
I actually really liked it. I did. I genuinely liked it.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, I mean, the first half of the movie, it wasn't slow. It didn't drag. It did have that. Well, I guess it was a cheap film, but it was a little predictable. I knew where things were going. I was like, I weren't sure what this was actually bringing to me. I was like, I feel like I've seen this a million times before with all the Friday films and, you know, Burning and stuff. And then you get that final bit, that last 20 minutes of the movie, it all kind of, the pacing picks up, the whole premise of the film, like it's this huge twist. And I'm like, okay, all right, that is something cool. That's new. That's interesting. So yeah, I did enjoy that. I really like that. I'm glad they chose to do that.
Yeah, well, this is. I think even people who think it's a bad movie probably could say it's a good slasher. Like it does all the things that you would want from a slasher.
Oh yeah, it's
really, really well. So regardless of whether it's not like a high art great movie, but it probably has one of the most shocking twists in a horror. You know, thinking of like a film like Psycho or something like that.
But then it gets you thinking about stuff that's happened throughout the film. Like, there's little things that Aunt Martha says, something about her doctor's result or something. I don't know. There's little things hinted throughout, like why she won't get in the water. I just kind of assumed because when she was young, she had this massive tragic boating accident, so she don't want to go in the water.
Or she's just shy.
I just didn't. Yeah, I just thought, you know, well, when she was a kid, her dad and brother got murdered by a boat, so I probably wouldn't want to get back in a lake again either.
Yeah, and I think the casting of Felissa Rose is because she even though they're all kids, she seems slightly younger than the other girls, so therefore she's not as confident with boys. You just assume that like she's not confident around boys, confident putting a swimsuit on or going in water or chatting to people. You buy that because she looks just so little and, do you know what I mean, like helpless. So she does an incredible role with a lot of facial acting and body language, and you know, with, like we say, very little. She has very little to say, and then that end, you believe her as this, you know, this feral, feral character. And I think the thing about this as well is that some people tie a lot of stuff into it now, related to like gender and all that kind of stuff. And even the people who made the second and third movies didn't really understand, I don't think, what this was. Because obviously the auntie has had this, it's her desire to have Angela. It's not Angela's desire for herself. And that's what's created this. In a way, it's all her auntie's fault, isn't it? It's like this whole thing, because she's sort of conditioned and created this issue, and in the second and the third films, it's all Angela's choice to behave and change her body and change the things she does, and
okay.
So there's loads of different ways of reading it, and people can watch a movie and read it however they want. And if you don't have any reading of it at all, it's just, the way I look at it is just a fun slasher film.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
with an incredible twist ending. So it's a tricky one, because I think it's had a lot of things attached to it that maybe aren't there. But that's probably the sign of a good film, because people write books about films where the director's not told anybody what it's about, and it's just what they think. So,
okay, all right. Well, let's carry it straight into your rating. How many accidents 1 to 10 would you give this?
It was obviously an accident.
It is obviously. I find this difficult, because in terms of how much I love the film, it's a 10 out of 10, but it's not a great film. It's not like a great film, but I do think it's a better film than what people sometimes think about it. I love the film.
Oh, actually, before you tell me what you're going to score it, I just want to remind you, right? You sent a meme to me saying that Sleepaway Camp is better than Friday the 13th, right? And I looked back in our scores, and I've got down what you gave Friday the 13th. So
I don't remember.
You don't? Oh, yeah, I don't think you remember. It was an early episode, so go ahead and give your score, and I'll tell you what you gave. So
this is
Friday.
why I'm not the best movie critic or reviewer, because I'll have a film like The Exorcist that everybody is like, this is a great, well-made movie, 9 out of 10. And then I'll also give Halloween 3 9 out of 10 or whatever. I think did I give Halloween 3 9 out of 10?
Halloween 3, yeah, you did, 9 out of 10,
yeah. So that's what this is getting too. This is getting a 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10.
Yeah, and I kind of want to give it 10.
Okay, all right.
Well, I'm going to give it 9, because I know it's not a great movie in a classical sense, but for me, it's one of my favourite movies of all time. It's one I will always go back to. It's so rewatchable, so creative, quotable. I say stuff from this film all the time. Eat shit and live. I love Ricky. I love like Judy's character. I love Angela. I love the portrayals of them all. I think all the kids are perfect. So, yeah, I can't find a reason for me to go higher. Can't find a reason to go higher, and I can't find a reason to go lower either. So I guess it's 9.
Well, you stuck to your word, because you gave Friday the 13th an 8. So you have given it a higher rating. Yep. Okay, so
just send all the hate mail to you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a really well-made, decent slasher. It's enjoyable. It's fun. It's what it's supposed to be. Literally, the only downside was kind of the acting. But and it was a little predictable in times. However, like I said, the final scene kind of bring it all back again. Felissa Rose, she was really good. I mean, she must have had some balls to play that character.
Oh no! You've been saving that one up.
I am. But overall, I understand why it's got more of a cult following rather than a huge kind of box office success. But I would definitely recommend anyone who likes slashers or 80s horrors, to definitely check this out. I initially, as I was watching it, I was thinking I was going to give it a 7, but when I was finalising my notes and starting collecting my research and trivia, I was thinking more of a 7.5, but then you'll like this, because I was also then, when I was thinking about your score with Friday the 13th, I was thinking, do I think this is better than Friday the 13th? Because I gave Friday the 13th a 7, right? So I'm going to do what you did the other day. Break the scoring system. I'm going to give it a 7.75.
Oh man,
because I do.
When you work
think,
out an average, that's going to be really tough.
Yeah, because I do think it is better than Friday the 13th.
Wow.
Yeah, I do. I think
I'm
it's really
shocked.
good.
I'm shocked. Only because I was just like, maybe I've bigged this up too much, because it may have been the first film I talked to you about, and I guess. I just think that's really cool that you watched it like with no expectations, no knowledge of the twist, no knowledge of anything to do with it, and still like loved it, which is great. It's interesting. I guess it stands the test of time then because you're watching it in 2024 for the first time. That's really cool. Yeah, I like that.
Cool. Right. Let's go ahead and jump through some trivia.
Trivia. Oh, yeah.
Right, I think some of this we've already spoken about, but the climactic scene was accomplished by using a nude man wearing a mask cast from Felissa Rose's face. The thin man who stood in for Angela was a college student who needed to get drunk before he was able to do the scene.
Yeah, that's an interesting story. I read that's in the book as well, and that's a really interesting story. It's I think it's just the case they're limited to a small amount of people to choose from to do a lot of these things because they're away from everyone in this isolated camp. So everyone's doing a bit of something. Yeah. And he got that part.
Yeah. The pedo cook, Artie, for his severe burn sequence, the actor was propped up on a fake floor and underneath liquid gelatin was pumped through the blisters, giving the impression that they're pulsating.
How cool is that? How creative is that?
Yeah, that is so cool. Because as I was watching it, I was noticing, I was like, wow, that looks really cool.
Yeah, it looks like you wanted to look away, like, oof, that's going to hurt.
Yeah.
And like, that guy, I think he's literally only ever done 2 roles, maybe. I think he's like Artie in this and then Artie again in the 2000 and whatever, the Return to Sleepaway Camp. But the perfect casting, isn't it? Because he's one of the most loathsome characters I've ever seen in a film. But another thing I'll say while we're talking about, your rating, and I know we've just kind of gone off that, is that if people didn't like the first one, then they might like the second or third.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'll definitely give them a go. Which would you say, out of all the sequels, what would you say would be the next best one to watch?
The second. Yeah, the second. And I think it pretty much goes in order, to be honest.
All right.
Like when we were ranking, or when I was talking about ranking Hellraiser films, it's like almost the same. It pretty much goes in order. And I think the second one, it's good to watch it and not think of the first one at all. Just like watch it as a completely different film. Because I think over here in the UK, it actually did have a different name as well. I think a lot of them did. I think they were called... Oh, my word. What were they called? People will know because they used to be in video shops all the time. And you'd see them, and I didn't realise it was the same. Nightmare Vacation.
Nightmare Vacation. Wow.
In the United Kingdom, yeah. So there's Nightmare Vacation 2. But I don't think Sleepaway Camp was called Nightmare Vacation in the UK. So, there's Nightmare Vacation 2, but there's no Nightmare Vacation 1.
Well, that's interesting. That's a bit of trivia.
It is trivia. I mean, it's just nonsense. A bit of nonsense, really, isn't it?
What else we got? During filming of the scene where the canoe flips over in the lake, John Dunn cut the top of his hand open against a sharp rock on the lake's bottom. He then had to be rushed to hospital.
Shit.
Felissa Rose's mother wasn't happy for her to do any of the killings herself, so her contract was written so that the killer's hands and the back shots were actually Jonathan Tiersten, Ricky.
So it was Ricky all along. Mel was right.
Yeah, literally, it was Ricky.
Mel, we should have listened to you, my friend.
Yeah.
It was obviously an accident.
Mel, why did we not? Yeah, well, maybe because you kept saying it was an accident when it wasn't. It's not like the Angela character's not that campy. Like she plays it really straight, doesn't she? Well, obviously she doesn't have a lot to say, but that's kind of ties into the character. Because I was just thinking when we're talking about the Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3, is that they are definitely more comedic. Pamela Springsteen's Angela is a funny character, whereas I don't think you could describe Angela in this film as a funny character.
Not at all. No. All right, my last one. This is quite an interesting one. So, the Hudson Falls Police, that Alan Breton used one of their actual police uniforms for the movie. When Alan pulled out his gun to take a look at it, he noticed that it was one of their actual guns, and it was loaded. Shit. And there was a good thing that the script didn't call for him to actually shoot it or use it on anyone, because it was actually loaded with real bullets.
Oh my word! Can you? There's something about these low budget. I think obviously there's no, gun trained person there, and there's no person dealing with the physical scenes or all the things that we'd have these days. But having said that, blimey, somebody got killed, didn't they? Making a film only a year or so ago with the Alec Baldwin film Rust. Yeah. So and these things happen, but you wouldn't expect it to happen in a Hollywood film in a way, but you. Maybe in a film like this, where everyone's doing a bit of everything. Yeah, it's weird. You just don't. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me, but equally, I'm so glad I've only just learned about that now, which means that nothing bad happened.
Yeah. All right, cool. Let's jump into this week's game.
I want to play a game.
Alright, so this game is kill count. So head-to-head horrors for the highest kill count. First up is this one, Sleepaway Camp, against Friday the 13th. Which one has the highest kill count?
I bet it's close, isn't it?
It is pretty close.
Maybe because it's a bigger budget, let's say Friday the 13th.
No.
I was going to say Sleepaway Camp first, and then I was like, no, because maybe they had more money to have more kills in the other one. But
Friday the 13th had 10, but Sleepaway had 12.
Okay.
Right, next up, Hellraiser against Pet Sematary. This is close as well.
I'm going to go Sleepaway Camp again.
No, it's Hellraiser versus Pet Sematary.
Oh, sorry. I thought I was comparing Sleepaway Camp. I'm still going to go Sleepaway Camp. No, Hellraiser versus Pet Sematary then.
Ooh.
I was just still in the mode. Everything's Sleepaway Camp.
Sleepaway Camp. The Thing versus The Hills Have Eyes.
I've only seen one of those films, so I'm going to say The Hills Have Eyes.
The Evil Dead versus Halloween.
Halloween.
Nah, Halloween had 5 and The Evil Dead had 8.
Oh, really? Okay.
Alien versus Predator. And that is Alien film versus Predator film, not Alien
versus Predator. And another film, and Sleepaway Camp. Alien versus Predator. Oof, that's close, because I can in my mind's eye I can see all the kills in. I guess the kills start relatively late in Alien, so I'm going to go Predator. That's my logic.
You are right, but technically there's loads and loads of kills in Predator because they go to that town and there's that huge war. So Alien had 6, but Predator had 76.
That sounds like something from Hot Shots Part 2, you know? Like.
Okay, last up is Scream versus the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Scream. Scream.
Yay! Yeah, cool. That's it. Let's wrap this shit up. So, next episode, I mentioned this earlier, so this was recommended from my dad. He said, when we were chatting the other day about the podcast, he said when he was younger, he used to go to his local cinema because they did midnight viewings of B movies. And
cool.
This was one he saw when he was like 15. He snuck in. You might know it. It's called The Funhouse.
Oh, I think I do. Yes.
Yeah, from 1981.
I've not seen it.
I've actually got it here. I bought it on Blu-ray.
I do know it.
I'm showing you on webcam.
Yeah. Yes, it's a Tobe Hooper, isn't it?
Yeah,
yes,
Tobe Hooper. Yeah, this was a few years after Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So, yeah, I'm excited to see that. I'd never heard of it. I like Tobe Hooper. So, I can't wait to watch that one.
Yeah, it's. I think I have seen it. You know, I can't quite place it, but I feel like I have seen it when I was going through like a phase of watching Tobe Hooper films. But me being me, obviously, I've still not seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre, even though I've watched loads of the sequels and I love the second one.
Wow!
But yeah, my favourite of the series so far that I've seen is the second one. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that. I mean, I'm assuming it takes place in a funhouse. So
I imagine this is people of a certain age. There's a lot of Pat Sharp in it, and the two twins, and they'll be running around like a course. There was a TV show. You're too young for this. There was a TV show called Funhouse. It was like a kids show, and you ran around a massive like gunge-filled house doing tasks.
Okay, awesome.
It's not that.
So the poll pick, just to remind everyone, so after we do the Funhouse, the next one will be the poll pick, and that was for the video game horrors, which Silent Hill won. So we'll be doing that one after the Funhouse. Yeah, and that's all I've got. So unless you've got anything else.
No, I'd just say recommend that book, the Jeff Hayes book, Sleepaway Camp, Making the Movie and Reigniting the Campfire. Even if you're not that interested in the film, it's an interesting book about so much, really. I've not read a book for a long time that's so detailed in terms, but in the right way. It's not like 5,000 pages. It's just everything that's in it is interesting and stuff that I didn't know about beforehand. And it's only about, at the moment, last time I saw it, was only about £5 for the hardback on Amazon.
Oh, wow.
So it's worth getting. I think you'd like it, actually, after watching this. It's a good one. But yeah, and also I would love them if they're listening to this. Anyone's listening to this, make a new one. I don't care if it's crap. I'll still watch it.
Awesome, man. I'll lead us out. So if you've liked today's episode and want to hear more, then go ahead and give us a follow on wherever you're listening from. You can also like us on Facebook, as that's where we stick up our poll picks, and you can vote for what we do next. And yeah, that's all for today. So thanks a lot for listening, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.
See you down at the social.
We all go a little mad sometimes.